Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you again so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern time zone as we get to ride home with you in the afternoon. It's a thrill for me to get to talk to you every day. I really appreciate the email, Donna@donnasedge.com. Continue sending that. It kind of keeps me up and it keeps me focused. So again, thank you so much for doing that. Definitely appreciate that. I've got Barry and Kathi Holcomb with me right now. They're regulars on the show. Always glad to see them. And on the previous show, they talked about their retreat for married couples, and definitely appreciate all the things that you guys are doing for the married couples out there. Now, this is retreat was not necessarily just for the young married folks that have been married quite a while too.
I wish that some of the older couples would see the value in providing input in marriage retreats like this. They think, well, we've learned everything we need to learn. Our marriage is great. We've got all these years behind us. They're the ones we really need to hear from. Yeah. They're the ones that we need to draw upon their wisdom and the years of experience. So I would hope that older couples would see the value in going and pouring into these younger couples.
Well, let's talk about the retreat, when and where it's going to be. Then let's dig a little bit further.
Okay, February 13th and 14th, it's a Friday night and Saturday morning. It's at Fellowship Christian Retreat at Crow's Neck, and that is in Northeast Mississippi. It's in Tishomingo, Mississippi. And I'm hoping that they'll have all the fallen trees cleared out by now. I think that part of the state was one of the areas hit a little bit harder than we were with the ice storm here recently. But it's a Friday night, Saturday morning. We'll have dinner on Friday night and breakfast on Saturday morning. You have to take care of your own child care. $35 a person. That covers 2 meals each. And we're having our friends Kaylee and Mandy Ferris from Russellville, Alabama, that will lead us and talk to us about just various issues that couples face in marriage.
Let's talk about what people watch on television. So my grandparents, I've mentioned that on the other show, that they had a pretty successful marriage, been married a really long time. Both spouses withered and died just shortly after their spouse passed away. But one thing they did not like to do was watch soap operas. My grandmother would say that's of Satan himself. And all it does is puts ideas. And she would say, now, when you get married, don't sit around watching soaps. And so quite a few of them. I remember Mother used to like to watch one, let's see, The Edge of Night, I think, and As the World Turns. And those people were just saddled with issues all the time. I never thought I wanted to watch them because I didn't want to watch problems, consistent problems. Peyton Place, all that stuff came out. That seemed to kind of change the way people thought marriages should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything, books, you remember all the books, Harlequin romances, or those were around when I was in grammar school, just the things, the movies, TV, books, the things that we put out there that give us an ideal that really is not attainable, some of which I wouldn't want to attain. But I'm just saying, as far as the romantic, the idealistic relationship, how you get together, all the things that we look at. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I do think the romance and some of the things, the way God brings two people together, can be very wonderful and special. But I do also think that the perspective that we need to have about marriage needs to come from the Bible. It needs to come from that perspective about what it is, what it's to be about. Not that it, can't be romantic. I know a lot of people that are a lot more romantic that Barry and I are. We're not, we don't always think about those kind of things, whereas my sister and her husband do, but as far as marriage is concerned and the long haul of marriage, you're going to have more than what you're reading and what you're seeing on TV, because I promise those things will only cause you to be disappointed. And I know that that has impacted marriages, because a wife might view her husband in a way that says, oh, you don't look like, Johnny on the soap opera, or he said, oh, you don't look like Susie on the soap opera, or in the book or in the magazine. And so it can affect your outlook on marriage. And I think, once again, it goes back to those expectations, unmet expectations. And I think we've got to get back to what the Word of God says about marriage and what it's to be about, because it really is. And this, and I don't mean to take all the romance out of it, but your marriage really is something that God will use here on earth to glorify His name. And when we get to heaven, when we have eternal life, we're not going to be married. I mean, that's what the scripture says. I will know Barry. I believe that. I will have this love for Barry. I believe that, but it will not be in the same relationship that is here on earth, because we will be ultimately with Christ. And is that right? Do you agree with that?
I agree.
And so, if we focus everything on this relationship here on earth, and we neglect the greater relationship with the Lord and the foundation that, or the picture that we give to others as Christ in the church, then we are going to really be struggling in our marriage, always looking for something more. We talked about couples whose marriages have failed, and a lot of times it's because one of them is looking for something more. Their needs aren't being met. This is not what they expected. Oh, we got married too young. I never got to experience growing up. It's just not the way that I thought it would be. And I just think we're blinded by the things of the world that would have us not have a strong marriage, and one that is founded on the rock and not the sand.
I was more of a General Hospital fan. Growing up, Donna, you didn't mention my show. I mean, I always remember Luke and Laura on General Hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, I was an American swimmer in high school, and I never had to stay at school. My sophomore, junior, and senior years, I was always out by lunchtime. We'd go by Burger King and get something to eat, and I'd come home and watch General Hospital and then go swim all afternoon. So I was, in athletics. But I promise you, marriage is not like General Hospital. Yeah. And I think the foundation of all this, what Kathi brought up at the very outset when we were talking in the last segment, was expectations. And so the reality about marriage is one or both are going to have to go to work. Mm-hmm. You've got kids to raise. There are diapers to change. There are groceries to buy. What are we going to have for dinner? Who's going to wash the dishes? There's laundry to do. Do I have to do all the laundry? Do I have to wash it, fold it, and put it away? Or can you help me with that? Who's going to do the housework? We've divided responsibilities, but those are not the issues that couples are thinking about when they fall in love and they build a relationship that's based on romance and feelings. And don't get me wrong, those things are wonderful. They have a great place in marriage. I have a great affection for my wife. She is the person on this earth that I care most about. But our marriage has been filled with everyday, mundane issues that sometimes can divide a couple. And unfortunately, that's what you see. So if you don't work through those issues and have expectations of who does what, who's going to cook, who's going to clean, who's going to clean up, there are just little things that divide couples. And then that doesn't even bring into it the expectations that men have that are different from women regarding sexual matters, unmet expectations there. So I'll go somewhere else to find my needs. You're not meeting them. Obviously, there's something wrong with you. I deserve better. I'll go find better. And so there are just so many issues that come into, a marriage that people are not anticipating, they're not expecting, and it doesn't take long to figure that out. So it just takes a commitment that goes beyond the romance and the gush and the mush and the Valentine's Day type things. We bought into this Valentine's Day culture that's what will build a strong marriage, and it's not. I mean, Valentine's Day is actually a pagan holiday, and we've built it into the church as if it was something that we could, make a foundation on. So it just takes work, and it takes a knowledge of what does the scripture say about marriage or any other number of issues in life. And sadly, what we've learned over the years too is a lot of people don't know their Bibles well enough to navigate the waters that get choppy sometimes.
Absolutely. Let's talk about in-laws for just a few minutes. And I'm talking on me. Okay, so when my son and daughter-in-law, they talked to the minister, was going to marry them. Well, Brad and I have a close relationship, but it's a healthy one. So the pastor wanted me to come to one of the sessions. And I know why. He was probably thinking, let's make sure she's not going to cause issues between that young couple, because that can happen. It really can. And so he said, I just wanted to make sure you're not offended at me asking you to come. And I said, I'm not offended at all. I said, I appreciate it. And I said, I just want to make sure I don't do anything that's going to hurt their marriage. And I will work daily to make sure that I don't. And so he and I had a good talk, and he said, I think you're going to be a good mother-in-law. And I said, well, I think so too, because I love her as much as I love him. I mean, she's my daughter. She really is. So anyway, she called one day crying. Sometimes they'll, young married girls will call, somebody crying. First words out of my mouth was, what did he do to you? That. And she said, he didn't do anything. I can't cook like you can. I burned the macaroni and cheese. I mean, she was just carrying on all this kind of stuff. And I said, hold on. I said, wait a minute. Oh, and Brad told her I could cook. So I had to talk with him after that. I said, don't ever say anything that I can do that she can't do. She's going to have to grow, and she'll overwhelm me. She's going to be much better than me once she gets it. And I said, I said, do you think I came out of the womb knowing how to bake biscuits? I said, do you know how many biscuits I burned? I said, I was a kid. I was about 12 years old when I first started baking biscuits. And I said, I remember the biscuits were so hard. We were at the dinner table. My brother actually said, if a robber comes in and tries to kill us, we can kill him with Donna's biscuits. I said, that's how bad my biscuits were. I said, I had to grow into that. And she said, well, Brad's doing all the cooking right now. And I said, let him teach you. There's nothing wrong with that. He can cook. Let him do it. And I said, but I'll tell you what makes me nervous when you come to my house. She said, what's that? And I said, you keep such a clean house. I've got a feeling that you could get a white glove out and do this with the dust on my table. Well, see, I let her know what her strengths were. That girl can clean house like nobody can. And that's what she did growing up. She and her sisters, they all had their different responsibilities. She had one sister that cooked. She cleaned. Another sister, I forgot what she did. But that's how she was raised. And this girl is she's a super when it comes to cleaning a house. So see, I got that out of the way. I didn't want to make her feel just because she didn't cook, just because she burned a macaroni and cheese, that was no reason to put her down. I said, you'll learn these things. And I said, there's nothing wrong with Brad teaching you. Not a thing wrong with it. Let him do it. And now when she cooks, she'll send me a plate of a picture and makes it look pretty too. Mine's just slapped on the table. Well, hers is pretty. It looks good and it tastes good. So see, mother-in-laws, we can make things easier if we'll just work at it.
Yeah, I think in-law situations are tricky. I think there's some situations that are really good. We had great experience with in-laws. I loved his mother like she was mine, and he loved my mother, and we loved each other's family. It was very unique and blessed. Now, don't get me wrong. There were things that would be like, we'd be upset, but it never affected us seeing them or being related to them. But I have some friends that it's not that way, where the daughter-in-law it's been very difficult. Just the angst between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. And it's been really tragic. I do think one of the things I have learned with adult children, I'm sure you've learned this too, Donna, is I'm reading this book called, Keep Your Mouth Shut and the Welcome Mat Out. and I've learned that, just your relationship changes, your role changes, and it's not, they definitely don't always want to hear what mom and daddy have to say anymore. And so have to trust the Lord in leading them and their family, and just keep your mouth shut. Now, I will have, I don't think I've ever had my daughter-in-law ask me how to cook something. She's pretty good. She's pretty decent cook. But there are differences, in families, extended families, and in-laws. It can make it very trying at times, for sure.
Absolutely. Guys,
Kathy's mom and dad were just like, oh, go ahead. You got a break coming up.
Yeah, let's go into a break, and we'll be right back.
Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Okay, we are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching. We definitely appreciate that. Thank you to all of our new sponsors, and thank you to the folks who've been with us a long time. We definitely appreciate that as well, and thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely appreciate that. Barry and Kathi Holcomb are with me. They are regulars on the show. We enjoy having them with us. I I like your honesty about life and about how things are. And my grandparents were a lot like that. It just seemed like I never saw them arguing, and so I did ask my grandmother one time. I said, "Do y'all ever argue?" My parents argue all the time. I said, "Do y'all ever have this?" And my grandmother said, "Oh yeah, we have a lot of differences. We sure do. We're two human beings. We're two totally different personality human beings. So yes, we do have differences, but do we wear it on our shoulders? No." So I learned a lot. I'm so glad I had that influence. Absolutely. Because who knows? I'm hard enough to live with. If I hadn't had that influence, my goodness, who knows where we'd be right now. Yeah. But you guys are doing an awesome thing with your retreat. And this is a great thing. Now, I want to say this to the older couples, okay? You need a retreat too. Because times changes. We're in different times. It's not 1950 anymore. It's not 1970 anymore. We got a different world that we live in. And social media plays a lot into a lot of issues. Folks on social media got perfect marriages on the screen. But now when they in real life, they don't necessarily. That's why sometimes somebody tells me they're getting a divorce, I'm going, really? I thought you had the perfect marriage. Well, it was different at home, but it was keyboard. So, don't think you're going to find perfect avenues on social media.
Right. And it's hard. We've done a lot of retreats, like you said. We've done them, once a year. And, sometimes it's hard to think back on, just the things you learn, the rules, if you want to call it that, of relationships that make it better. So you kind of have to be reminded of those things. I think that is something that's even biblical too, that the Lord talks about, remember, even talks about putting up memorial stones to remember. And, just so going to a marriage retreat, even as an older couple, helps you to remember. I mean, there may be some things that you've just accepted that don't need to remain that way. Maybe you've accepted that you don't talk about deeper things or spiritual things, or you don't pray together anymore, or you don't go out on a date anymore, and you've just accepted that. And I think sometimes you have to be reminded of who you are in Christ as a couple, and those things that God would have us to be blessed by. And certainly relationships are a blessing. Mm-hmm. Certainly they are. And we are to work on those things. So anybody that would say, "Oh, I don't need one. We're good. We get along," or "He'll never change. I'll never change." I think that makes me sad, because I think we can always get, I use the word better. We can always become more like Christ in our marriage. We just have to remember the things to work on. And as I'm even saying that, I think about one thing that we learned was, and this has been a few years ago, but how to fight fair. And I think we actually have talked about that on this show of, a while back, but, you're going to fight. I mean, I'm sorry, let's not pretend that we're not going to disagree. We are, but how do you fight fair? How do you do that without one, totally wounding the other or winning the fight, or, getting their way at the expense of the other? How do you fight fair? And then how can you communicate in ways that are open and honest? Like you mentioned, let's be real transparent and let's hear what the other person has to say, because sometimes their thoughts and feelings are valid, even though you may not see it that way. So there's a lot of things, you have to be reminded of. And we do quite often. We have to help each other remember those things.
I wanted to mention, I've got my grandparents.
And I think too,
go ahead.
I just to say, for older couples that may not think about going to a retreat, it may be that you have a great marriage. There may not be a number of issues that you have to work on, but two things that you might get out of it. You might have a chance to be an example to the younger couples. Yes. And then it just gives you an opportunity to go back and have gratitude for how God has blessed your marriage, to be reminded of what it took to make it work, and just to have a means of being grateful for all that the Lord's done to build a strong marriage. So some really solid reasons for some of the older couples to take part.
Yeah, because this world is looking for an example right now. I'm talking good ones, not bad ones. And somebody's got a successful marriage. I mean, I'm watching them myself. I want to know what they do.
Right.
And it seems to be communication.
Yeah.
It just really does. I'm going back to my grandparents again. So my grandmother was talking about years ago. She said that my dad and my uncle, I think my dad was 6 or was 3, and my uncle was 6. And there was a woman who worked, my granddad was the boss at a mill. And so there was a woman that kind of developed a crush on my granddad. So, and my granddad, she said he wouldn't do anything like that. She said he was busy working and he's always kept his family together. She said, but I wanted to nip it in the bud. And I said, well, how did you nip it in the bud? And she said, well, what I didn't let your dad and his brother have a nap. I let them go past their nap time. And she said, I gently got them and walked over to the woman's house when I knew she was at home. And I let them be as irritating as they wanted to be. And she said, I told the woman, she said, if you get my husband, you get them too. Well, that stopped. She said, I just let them be as rowdy as they wanted to be. And she said, she got home. She said, Alden, you know what I did today? And they said, I heard what you did today. He said, now, Jeannie, you know I wouldn't do anything with it. She said, I know, but I wanted to stop her dead in her tracks. And she did. I don't know that I would do anything like that, but it was a different time back then. It was just different.
Yeah. And it's a different time now. So a lot of couples fall apart because of other relationships that develop outside the marriage. I guess one of the things I would urge couples to do is to make sure you're an open book with your spouse. That cell phones are not restricted. That she can look through my text messages. That Kathi gets to screen who I'm friends with on Facebook. If I get a friend request from a lady, she knows about it and she can give the thumbs up or the thumbs down on that. From time to time, it's not very often, but let's just say, for instance, some woman out there flirts with me or hits on me. God knows why she would do that. But, Kathy's the first to know about that. I mean, she hears about it. So you don't give yourself opportunity to think, well, I must be worth flirting with, maybe she sees something in me. Maybe we could just have some good, clean fun, which that's an oxymoron. That's nothing outside your marriage can be that. But just to kind of stay open and transparent about what's going on. I got a friend request from a lady just a couple of days ago, and I knew the name and I knew her, and I couldn't think of it. She went to the same high school as me. And then it hit me, I guess just yesterday morning, I woke up and I thought, oh, I had a date with her. I went out with her one time. It was somebody that set us up. And so I told Kathi, I figured out who she was. I dated this girl one time. It's a friend request that I deleted. I haven't seen her in 40 years. There's no real reason to reconnect. But all kinds of things can get you in trouble, especially when there are not boundaries regarding the opposite sex.
Yeah, and I was just going to say something real quick because I know our time is almost over. But one of the things that I think is foundational for every marriage is to have some accountability. And if your wife is not going to be your accountability person, which many could be, like your grandmother, I heard of one woman say that if she ever heard her husband, somebody was coming on to her husband, she'd go and rip her arms off. So, I do think that we can stand like that. We need some accountability. Men need accountability. Women need accountability. That's why I think men need to be in Bible studies or discipleship groups and to talk about these things and to have a voice that you listen to. If it's not your wife, somebody to say, hey, this is wrong, stop.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. This is a needed conversation, and I hope you have full success at your retreat. Let's mention one more time where it is.
All right, Fellowship Christian Retreat at Crow's Neck. It's in Northeast Mississippi, a town called Tishomingo. It's kind of out in the country. You can find out about it on the Calvary Baptist Church, Belmont, Mississippi Facebook page. But if you can't come to that one, look, I would just urge all your viewers, find a good marriage retreat. Find a church that emphasizes marriages, that teaches the importance of a good foundational, biblical, solid footing on a marriage, and get involved. Just find a way. to work on your marriage. It takes work.
Thank you guys so much for being with us, and we'll see you next time around.